So now that we have our materials together, let's go ahead and do our game setup. Now typically the first thing that you do when you're getting ready to play a game of Malifaux is you agree on the encounter size of the game. Most of the time this is going to be between 25 and 35 soul stones for a scrap, or all the way up to 50 soul stones or higher for a brawl. For our purposes here, we're going to be playing a very small game. This is an 11 soul stone scrap, and I will go through the hiring process with you. So on this side we have Lady Justice. We're selecting our once the encounter size is selected, we're saying 11 soul stones. Then we're now going to select our factions. So one player may decide that they're playing the guild on the right side of the screen here. The other faction is going to be playing Resurrectionists on the left hand of the screen. And so now we're going to go through the hiring process of our crew. Well, actually, before that, we've selected our encounter size. Then we selected our soulstone encounter size. Then we're going to determine our strategy. So for the purposes of this demo, I've selected the strategy, shared strategy, which means both players are playing the same strategy. And this one's called a line in the sand. You can see denoted here by the dynamite. So we have dynamite set up across the middle of the board. The object of the game is to get over, make it into base contact with the dynamite, and then use a one action to activate the dynamite for your team. The crew that has the more dynamite counters activated at the end of each turn after the first will receive 1 victory point to a maximum of 4 victory points. So the game is actually scored by victory points. It doesn't really matter in this particular game which models die and if all the models get wiped out. The only point is that if at the end of the game you have more victory points than your opponent does, then you win the encounter. So now we have a strategy. We have an encounter size, we have our faction selected, and we have our strategy. Now it's time to hire the crew. So, like I said, this is an 11 soulstone game. So the first thing the guild player is going to do is they're going to select the master of their crew. And in this case, we've selected Lady Justice. Now, Lady Justice has a cache here on the corner of her card. You can see it in red. I don't know if the camera's picking it up very well or not. But she has a cache of 4 soul stones. So she's going to come with 4 soul stones, and your master is free. Then you're going to hire the rest of your crew. Now your minions are actually going to have soulstone costs associated with them. So I'm going to hire the judge here at 7 soulstones. And I'm going to hire Mysterious, who is a death marshal, at a cost of 4 soulstones. And we agreed on an 11 soulstone game, so that's exactly 11 soulstones. And Lady Justice has 4 soulstones in her cache. That means I am going to take my soulstone cache here, and I'm going to mark off 4 bullets. So she will begin the game with 4 soulstones. Now for the Resurrectionist side, the Resurrectionists have selected their master, who is Seamus. Seamus has a soulstone cache of 2. So he will start with 2 soulstones, and again, you do not pay for the master. For henchmen, this is a different scenario, and I will probably cover that in a later video, as far as using a henchman as your crew's leader, and what types of rules are different for a henchman. But anyway, Seamus has got a soulstone cache of 2, and he's for free, and he's elected to hire Madame Sybil, who has a cost of 6, and 1 Rotten Bell, who has a cost of 4. So that is 10 soulstones. And note that we are playing an 11 soulstone game. What happens in the case of not hiring or still having some leftover soulstones after you hire your crew means that those soulstones can be added to the cache of the crew once the totals are determined. So with 1 extra soulstone, I'm going to mark Seamus's cache of 2 soulstones plus an additional 1 soulstone for only being at 10 soulstones worth of minions. So you see that soulstone isn't wasted. The soulstone discrepancy in crews is not wasted. It actually goes into the Seamus player's hand, or into the Seamus player's cache, and they can use it during the game. So before we start playing our game, I'm going to go over with you the card mechanic, or actually the duel mechanic is what it's probably better remembered by in the game of Malifaux. So as you might have heard, Malifaux does not use dice to determine the outcomes of attacks and specific actions in game. It actually uses the cards. And we went over that this is a 54 deck of cards, and each player has one set of cards. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to place one set of cards on this side of the screen, and I will set the opposing player's card on this side of the screen. Now, normally what happens at the start of the turn, a player is going to draw their control hand. Now, this is the hand that they keep, that each player keeps to themselves, and that's one control hand. That looks pretty good there. So when it is time to perform a duel, what often happens is a player will flip a card and then add the value of their card, the value meaning the number and the suit of their card, to a specific stat to try to reach a target number. If they do not reach the target number, and provided they haven't flipped something horrible like a black joker, the player can then cheat fate, meaning they can go through their control hand, and this happens to be an amazing one. They can go through their control hand and select one of their cards to cheat in, or to cheat fate, that replaces the value of the card that was played. So in other words, if I play this 11 tome over this 3 crow, I will have a total that includes an 11 tome. The 2 cards do not add up, so do not think I'm adding 14. I am adding 11. So that's the basics of a cheat, and that might be for what is called a simple duel, where the player is just trying to reach a specific number in order to successfully complete their action. Simple duel might be something like, say, Seamus's Terrifying 12, where the target number is 12. The testing model would have to test against their willpower plus their card flip to see if they can beat the number of 12. Otherwise, they will fall back and be affected by terror.